everybody, and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you are new, I'm Corie, and I'm really happy that you're here. This is Sammy. He wanted to say hi too. But for my subscribers, really thank you so much for everything that you do to support my channel. I love all of the comments and interacting with you all. Thank you for sending me your projects. I've got another shout out for today's video that I'm going to be doing, so super excited about that. Today we're going to be doing 4 fall and winter holiday and just winter also wreaths. So I've got a little bit of everything, and yeah, really happy with how they turned out. So before we get into that, I did promise new air. Sam, he just does not want me doing this today, you guys. I promised new air that I would tell you a little bit about this amazing fan that they sent me. I'm going to talk about it for about 30 seconds. If you're not interested, completely understand. You can feel free to skip ahead. But otherwise, I hope you'll bear with me. And here we go. So here is my new air fan, you guys. When I took it out of the box, it came really nicely packaged, and you can see the parts here. It's got a couple of legs. It's got a really sturdy base. This fan is solid, and it took me all of about 5 minutes to put together. It was 6 screws with nuts. Everything was provided. You can see it's a really nice looking fan. This can also be wall mounted. I'm going to be using this as my craft space to help dry all of my paints and keep air circulated, and you know, when I'm using paints and spray paints and things like that, just to make sure that I'm keeping myself healthy. But really pretty fan, stainless steel blades. Here I've got it going. It's got 3 speeds. This is rated for outdoor use as well, so you can use it indoors or out. And Sammy even wanted to check it out. I think he thought it was pretty cool. Get it? So here we go with DIY number 1. So I'm going to be starting out with some feathers. And then I also have a small wreath form, some boas from the Dollar Tree, and I thought I was going to be able to get away with 6 of them. I did end up using 8 total, so 4 orange and 4 black. And I'm just going to tie these together. I probably didn't even need to do that, but I wanted to tie those ends together just to keep them in one place and also help kind of anchor them when I started weaving this through. And then I literally just wove my boa through the wreath form, tucking it through the 2 outer rings and then bringing it up through the 2 inner rings and wrapping it over the metal as I went, hopefully kind of like a an 8 shape, you know, when you go back and forth, kind of looping it over itself just to make sure that I was hiding all of the metal frame, although it really isn't difficult to hide it with the feathers because they're nice and fluffy. And just as I went, you can see I just kind of slid them down the frame a little bit just to make sure that they were packed, not super tight, but sufficiently to make my wreath nice and full. So this has 5 sections in the wreath. I used 4 boas total, so it kind of gives you an idea of how dense you want to make this. Then when I got to the end, I tied it off at the back, tied it to the starting point, so everything was nice and secure. And so there you are with the base of the frame. I love it already. So I had feathers everywhere, you guys. But now I'm going to take some of this Dollar Tree wired jute cord, and we're going to make our little turkey some legs. So I'm going to be taking off a length of it. I'm going to start with his foot around the spot at the base of the leg. So I'd say I made his leg maybe about 12 inches. And I just eyeballed it. I did not measure it. And I'm just giving him his little toes here. And I gave him 3 little toes. I thought about it afterwards. I could have given him like a 4th little hind toe that you sometimes see. But once I had it the way I wanted it, I then twisted up some more of the jute, the length of my little leg, and then I cut it off, and then I twisted it all together to make one solid little leg. Now I had made this wreath once before, you guys, and I had used a wire coat hanger and then covered it with jute cord, so you could do that as well. And I started to do that with this until I remembered I had picked up some more of this wired jute cord, but it's just much more difficult. So if you have the wired jute cord, highly recommend using this rather than a wire coat hanger, because I was injuring myself in the process also. So this is much safer and a lot easier to work with. So I'm just doing the same thing again here with the second little turkey leg. And we got scrawny turkey legs here. Not a lot of meat on these guys. So once I have them the way I want them, I'm going to attach them to the base of my wreath, and I'm just twisting that around down underneath, and I'd flip him over to just attach him to the base a little bit better. And I did go back in and hot glue his legs in place as well. You can see his little floppy legs there. So now I have a piece of brown felt. This is just a piece of scrap felt that I've had for goodness only knows how long, and I am going to be making him a little hat. So I'm just kind of getting an idea of the width that I want it to be and the height that I want his hat to be. And again, I'm not measuring this at all. I'm just really eyeballing it. If I had to guess, I would say it was probably about 4 inches tall. And so I just kind of made it into a little bit of a cylinder shape. It does narrow a little bit at the top, not a lot. And now I'm making a rim for it. And again, I'm just eyeballing all of this. So I'm just doing an oval here, and I'm going to be using some hot glue to secure the hat crown. That one of my wonderful subscribers let me know that part of the hat is the crown. I'm going to secure that to the brim of my little hat. And then I'm going to take the felt again, and I'm going to create another little oval for the top part of my hat in just a second. So I'm just kind of getting an idea of how large I want that oval to be and cutting it out. Again, just eyeballing it. I got it pretty close, but I wanted to trim off a little bit more there so that it wasn't going to overlap too much on the hat. And again, coming in with my hot glue. Now, if I had to do this over again, I realized while I was editing this, I probably should have stuffed this with some polyfill, because then it just would have been a little bit more stable on its own. So if you do this, I do recommend just sticking some polyfill in there. And now I'm coming in with a couple of little feathers to decorate his hat. And I was just going to put a little hot glue on that and then put a little embellishment there. But of course, I just got some hot glue right smack in the middle of the hat, so I had to go to plan B. So I have this other golden color felt, and I'm just going to make a little strip that I can wrap around his little hat. And that's going to cover up that glue disaster that I had on the front, as well as give a place for the little feathers to be stuck into, for lack of a better term. So now that I've got his hat there, I'm going to take these other little fluffy red feathers, and I'm going to glue these to the bottom underside of the brim, because I'm setting this up as if our little Tom Turkey had a hat fall down over his head, and all we see is his little gobbler thingy sticking out. I don't even know what you call that. I'm calling it a gobbler thingy. But that little red thing that hangs off the turkey chin. So I'm going to just fasten that to the hat, so it's as if his whole little face is hidden and all that's sticking out is his little gobbler chin thing. And then I'm securing with plenty of hot glue the hat to the top of the wreath. And I'm sorry I'm a little bit out of frame here. I actually did finally invest in a real camera. So this is the first time using my real camera. So I did also get a tripod, so I will be getting much better shots. But again, this is the first time using it, so I'm still working on it, you guys. Bear with me, because I will get there and I will have much better shots in future videos. But I'm coming in here with my larger feathers, and at first I thought I was going to paint some of them because I only had red and blue feathers. And ultimately I decided that I just liked the red ones and I was just going to use the 4 red ones that I had. I decided I really didn't need more than that for this project. So I've got them flipped over and I'm tucking the feathers in through the form, kind of weaving that long part of the feather, that stem part of the feather through the form, and then coming in with some hot glue to secure it. So set him aside for right now. I'm using some foam core board from the Dollar Tree. This is obviously a black foam core board, and I'm going to cut off a piece of it because I'm going to be making a sign with it. So ARTEZA sent me these awesome acrylic paint markers, and so I'm going to be using them. And I had started with this one orange that I thought was going to work great, and then it ended up being not quite as, it was, I want to say a little bit more pink than I wanted, so then I did switch over to another orange that was in the set, and that was exactly what I was looking for. So this is my first time using these paint markers, so really happy to be trying them out. I thought they were really cool. And I do still have, through the end of October, a special discount for my subscribers and watchers. So if you are watching this and you have interest in checking out ARTEZA's site, there is a link in the description box with a coupon code. So feel free to check that out. So I just went over it a couple of times to get it the way I wanted it. I'm doing that faux calligraphy on my downstrokes. And there you have it. Give thanks. And now I'm going to come back in with a yellow ARTEZA acrylic marker and just give a little bit more embellishment. I just felt like it needed another little something. And I was really happy with how these acrylic markers worked on the foam core board. I did find that I wanted to go over it a couple of times because the foam core kind of absorbed the paint. I mean, obviously it's a paper that's on the surface of the foam core, so I did go back over that a couple of times just to make sure that it was the way I wanted it. So now I'm using a couple of chenille stems. I'm going to hot glue them in the middle of the chenille stem to the back of my sign, and once that's cool, I'm going to bend those up, and that's how I'm going to attach my sign to my wreath. So just going to drop those in, get it where I want it, and then I'll flip my little wreath over and attach those chenille stems to the frame. So I'm just tucking it in underneath that inner wire from the wreath frame around the feathers, and then just twisting it off. And once I twist it off, I will twist the chenille stems down and tuck them in so nobody's getting stuck. And there you go. So here we go with DIY number 2. For this, I am using a wreath form that I picked up actually from Michael's. I think it was $7, $6.99, yeah, and I had a 20% off coupon. Then I have my Dollar Tree little garland ties, and these look like little evergreen ties, so they're like chenille stems, but they're evergreen, which is really cool. I've also got my little ornaments from the Dollar Tree, some berries, some other florals, and I thought I was going to use those little snowy picks, but decided not to, and then my cute little owl. So starting out by just opening up the wreath form, just fluffing all of that out, just really just bending all of those little branches out so that it's nice and full. And then I'm opening up all of my little bulbs and just taking a look at them. These are from the Dollar Tree, so it was 12 to the pack, and I'm just checking the little stems on them to see how secure they are. And there were a few places that they were a little bit banged up, just from having knocked up against each other. They rubbed a little bit in the package, so I just touched them up with a little bit of my ARTEZA Gold acrylic paint, and they were good as could be. So I am taking my chenille stems in chocolate brown, and I am just threading them. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not showing this very well, but I'm threading them through the little holes in the tops. One of mine was missing the little top holder thingy, so I was able to wrap it around the base. Hopefully you saw what I was doing there. So I set those aside once I had them ready, and I'm just getting one of my picks ready because I decided I really wanted to put my florals on first. So cut my pick apart the way I always do, and I'm just going to secure these by tucking the wire stem through and then wrapping it around the wreath form. So there's a nice heavy wire underneath there that's holding on to all of those branches, and so I'm just wrapping the pick around there. And then I did go back in later and secure that better, and you'll see what I do there. Coming in with my berries, I'm just alternating everything so everything is nice and symmetrical because I just like that. And here I go with the little snow branches, and I thought that maybe this would work nicely, and then ultimately I really decided after playing with it that I just didn't like the way it was looking. So here I am just kind of playing with it, and I'm kind of like, it's just not looking right to my eye. And so I'm sure there's probably a way that you could figure out to do this and have it look right, but ultimately I just decided I didn't care for it, so I pulled them out and decided I would use it on another project. So now I'm coming in with my little ornaments, ball ornaments, and I am tucking those chenille stems through and around the little base of the wreath again and tying them off underneath, twisting them together underneath on the other side. So I know it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing, but hopefully you're kind of getting the idea based on what I'm telling you. So now I'm just flipping everything over, and I just kind of tried to secure everything as well so nothing would just fall out. Sometimes with gravity, when you flip your wreath over before you have everything completely secure, it will fall out. And then I'm coming in with some zip ties here. And you can see that I am just zip tying down the stems of all of those little picks that I stuck through. So I'll give you a closer up in a second, so hopefully you can see a little bit better. It's hard to tell because the wreath is green and then the pick stems are also green, so they all kind of blend together here. But here you can see how I'm just going around the wire from the wreath form. I'm also going around that little stem that's sticking out and then just pulling it tight. And then I do like to come back in, and I didn't show this on camera, but I do hot glue each of those little intersections where the zip tie connects the stem, and then I trim off the ends of the zip ties. I obviously hadn't done that just yet, and I did not show that on camera either, but I do go back in and do that. So now I'm taking my little owl friend and I'm wrapping another chenille stem around what I like to think of as his little feet. They were these little tiny pine cones, and I'm going to use that to secure him in there as well. So just twisting that in and tucking that in. So, isn't he cute? I thought that was super cute. I love that little owl. So now I'm coming in with some of my Costco ribbon, and I'm giving it a little bit of a tail at the start here. And I'm going to use my little garland holders, my evergreen stems, and I'm just trying to decide how I want to use them to anchor down this ribbon. I ended up doing something completely different as I worked here, but at the start I was just using these, trying to wrap it around the whole base of the wreath form and then tying it off. So then I was like, yeah, let's try something else. I cut it in half, I twisted around the ribbon, and then I attached the little thing to another one of the branches, and they look exactly the same as the branches on this wreath form, so they blended really nicely. So I figured, oh, it'll make it a little bit fuller too. But then I decided, you know what, I could probably just tuck the ribbon in and twist a couple of those little branches around it and be done. And that's ultimately what I ended up doing. And it worked just fine. So if you decide that you'd like to do it that way, it works just as well. So that's what I ended up doing for the rest of the wreath. So you can see I'm just kind of tucking the ribbon in where I want it around the wreath and just using the branches that are there to kind of twist around them just once or twice to secure that ribbon. And that's all I did to secure the ribbon here. Nothing else, no glue, nothing. So this ribbon could easily be removed as well if you decided that you wanted to change it up for whatever reason. And I'm coming back to the place where I started. I'm going to trim that off to be an equal length because I'm going to let that be my tails for a bow. And now I'm going to create a bow, just going back and forth. And leave me a comment if you are interested in me doing a bow video on how to make different bows. I know that there are a lot of videos out there like that. I'm happy to do one. I just wasn't sure that it was something that you guys would really want to see, but let me know if that's something of interest, and I can certainly do a quick video on bow making. It's kind of funny. I learned how to make bows back in high school when I worked for JCPenney, and summertime and over the Christmas holidays, I was always looking for extra hours, and so they would let me work in the customer service gift wrapping department at sometimes, and so I learned there how to make all these bows. So that's how I learned how to do this, but that was a long time ago. So just fluffing up my bow, I had secured it, dovetailing my ends the way that I always do, folding it in half and just cutting it at an angle. And then because this is wired ribbon, you can get it to kind of form to the way that you want it. So I'm just making it nice and pretty and kind of kinked there. And there you have it. Sweet little wreath. So time for the shout out time out. I've got an awesome job by Angie to share. Angie created this from a video that I had done a few months ago for my coastal decor. So great job. And so cute, Caitlin. Caitlin made these wreaths with Dollar Tree supplies. So I just thought that those were really neat. So thank you so much for the for submitting for the shout out. And here we go with DIY number 3. So these are my inspiration wreaths. You guys, these range from $52 to $349. Inspiration pictures only, okay? So I've got all of my Dollar Tree picks. These are snowy picks that you saw before. I do end up using them for this project. I've got my ice berries from the Dollar Tree that I absolutely love. I have these silver blingy berries as well. I have my icicle branches that I think are just really beautiful, and then my super icy branch picks. Then I have a wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and then also that was left over from a witch's broom, I call it, that I pulled apart, and I'm also going to be pulling apart a second broom for this. And then I also have some wire there. And I was showing you before that I'm just going to be using the inner ring for this. So I've got my wire cutters, I've got my pliers, I've got all kinds of stuff going on trying to get off this one ring. You know what, you guys? Dollar Tree is really rocking it. This is a Dollar Tree wreath form, and this thing was solid. It took some effort to get this ring off. So you can feel confident that if you use one of the Dollar Tree wreath forms, you'll be good to go as far as that puppy staying together. So in the process, I did accidentally break my little ring, so I'm just using some of my wire to try and wire it together. And then I am getting a bunch of my twigs together. Now, you guys, you can totally purchase a wreath base, a wreath form that is like this. I did not have one. I wanted to do this. I figured I could make it myself, and so that's what I did. You do not need to go to the trouble of actually building the wreath form if you want to just pick one of these up at your local Hobby Lobby or Michael's or Joann's, they do sell these, right? So this is the very first time that I am even trying to do this. I was wishing I had some paddle wire. Do yourself a favor if you do want to do this, get some paddle wire because it'll make your life a lot easier. I was trying all different things just to try and keep my wire from tangling because I was using wire that was left over from another project. But ultimately, I got it pretty much the way I wanted it. And now I'm going to come in with my picks, just trying to figure out how I want to do it, because I do want to cover up and camouflage all that wire in the middle of my wreath there. So I'm cutting apart my picks again, because you know that's what this girl likes to do. And I'm just going to come in and start tucking in my little picks all around the inside first. And I figured this really pretty icy blingy stuff would be enough to conceal what was going on there with the wires where I was securing down all of the twigs, for lack of a better term. So once I got all the way around there, I did start branching out a little bit, no pun intended, and just going a little bit further out on the wreath. And then I'm coming in with my snow picks and just layering everything on and going out a little bit further towards the edges of the wreath. Now everything is getting secured down at that base, but because I have different lengths of product here, I'm able to get it to kind of spiral out towards the outer edges, which is what I want. And then I had also come in with my icicle picks, and now I'm coming in with some of my red berries. And I'm just going to intersperse the red berries around. I don't want to overwhelm with the red because I really want it to be pops of red, like in some of those inspiration pictures that I showed you earlier. And then once I have the red in, I do end up going back and adding some more of the snowy picks. But this is how it's looking so far. I love the icy colors, and then with the pops of red, I just think it's so pretty. This is such a wintry, pretty wreath, in my humble opinion. So tucking in some of these silver berries now, and I'm interspersing them. And like I said, now I'm coming back in with some more of the snow. So you've got a few different things going on here. You've got some of the bling, but then you've got some of that soft snow, and then you've got the twigs. So I think of this as very much fitting in with the farmhouse theme, even though we do have some bling going on, which if you know me, you know that makes me very happy because I love my farmhouse, but I love a little bit of bling. Girls gotta have some bling, right? So here we go with DIY number 4. This is my inspiration picture. Sammy from Unicorn Dust Design sent this to me and said, please, please, will you make this? So I said, okay. I've got my deco mesh in cranberry and red. Then I have some ribbons from the Dollar Tree. I ultimately forgot to use that, but I've got my ribbons from Hobby Lobby and then also from Amazon that I picked up. And then I have some of my berries. I have some of these white flowers that I got from Walmart, as well as some greenery, boxwood from Walmart as well. And then more of the Dollar Tree garland fasteners, if you will. So I'm folding all of my fasteners in half. If you've seen me do deco mesh wreaths before, I normally do this with chenille stems. So I'm doing the exact same thing that I normally do with the chenille stems. And I'm going to be attaching these to my wreath form. You can also get a working wreath and do this with a working wreath. So if you're familiar with a working wreath, essentially it's a wreath form that already has these attached to it. And you can certainly pick up one of those and use one of those. But I thought this was just as easy. So using my little Dollar Tree supplies. And I wanted to anchor them a little bit better, so I just flipped one end underneath the wire frame, so it was just a little bit more secure and not sliding up and down the center fasteners, if you will. So I've got my little rotary cutter. You can certainly use regular scissors, and I just wanted to cut off that end, make sure I had a nice clean edge to start with. And I'm cutting off 10-inch sections of the mesh, and these are 10-inch mesh rolls also. So the how do I explain? From top to bottom there, it's 10 inches, right? So the roll is 10 inches wide. Yeah, because it's like 30 feet long or something like that. But, or 30 yards, I forget. 30 feet, I think. So anyway, at any rate, I have 10 by 10 inch squares ultimately. So I'm using the fact that these curl up on themselves to my advantage, curling them a little bit tighter. I made an X with them. I'm using one of each color for each of these spaces. And there are 8 section markers, if you will, with 2 at each section marker, so a total of 16. So I needed 16 of the cranberry and 16 of the red. I was a little bit short on the red, so I used a little bit extra cranberry, but nobody's gonna know the difference. If I hadn't told you just now, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. So rolling these up, you can see how I'm rolling them tight. I'm creating an X with them. I'm alternating them because that's just who I am, and I like to make things a little bit more random. But now I am using my cardboard for cutting my ribbon. I finally found this. If you saw me make the pumpkin topiary, you know that I couldn't find this the other day, but I finally found it. I'm just wrapping my ribbon around and around until it gets to a place where I'm not sure that I'll be able to cut it if I don't stop. And then I went ahead and slid my scissors through there. I'm sorry I was out of the screen there, but I just cut off my ribbon, and now I'm going to dovetail the edges. And this is just an easy way to get a bunch of ribbon sections all at once, like cut a little bit more quickly. This cardboard piece that I have, I'm trying to remember, I think that one was a 6-inch board. So ultimately my ribbons are gonna be 12 inches long, right? Because it's 6 inches up one side and then 6 inches down the other. I'm cutting it off in the middle. So hopefully you're following what I'm saying. So when I open it up, it's a 12-inch piece of ribbon. Hopefully that makes sense. So dovetailing my ends again. And I needed, because of those 16 places where I was securing all of my mesh, I need 16 of each ribbon. And again, I'm going to alternate them. So one time I've got the buffalo check on top, another time I have the burlap on top. So hopefully that makes sense. And I apologize if you hear my phone going off in the background. I'm not sure what's going on, but apparently I'm really popular at the moment. So I'm going to try and put this on silent. All right, so I'm just going around the wreath and fluffing up my ribbon as I go, and you can see how full the ribbon helps make this wreath, right? So I didn't even have to use all that much mesh. And now I'm coming in with my boxwood, and again, gonna cut my pieces apart, right? Cut my my picks apart. And I'm going to bring these in, and the same way that I did with the evergreen wreath, I'm going to be tucking this in and anchoring the ends of my picks to the wreath form underneath. So I'll be bending those little picks around the wire frame, and then I will go back in, and I don't know why I didn't for this one, you guys. Normally I do go in and I secure everything with the zip ties. For this one, I just decided to use hot glue. It seems to be fine, but normally I do go in and I zip tie it as well. So now I'm coming in with my red berries, And I'm just being a little bit random with these, you guys. And to be quite honest, I did have the inspiration picture next to me, so I was referencing that a little bit because I did want to get it a little bit close to what was happening there. So once I have all my red in, then I will come back in with the white. And I had noticed that the white was really more at the outer edges. So pulling this pick apart, this one was weird because it was like they were attached in the middle and I wasn't sure how long I wanted my stems to be. So it worked out just fine though. So coming in with the white flowers now, and making sure that I have them all secured around where I want them. And then flipping it over, getting everything tucked in, making sure that everything is attached properly. And again, I had really just twisted everything around the wire frame. And then I went in and I hot glued every one of those little puppies. Just making sure everything is nice and secure. So now I am using another piece of foam core board. Now for this one, I did paint it with chalk paint because I have a stencil that I want to use, and it occurred to me that with the foam core board, it might want to stick permanently. And I was worried about being able to peel my stencil off. So I went ahead and I painted it with chalk paint, gave it a couple of coats just to be safe, and I'm hoping that this works. So I'm trying to line it up. I'm using my mat, my cutting mat underneath, just to make sure that I've got it kind of lined up because I want to make sure that it's even and straight. And I started setting it down, and then it actually did let me lift it to reposition it. So that gave me some comfort in thinking that it probably was going to let me pull the stencil up in the end, because it wasn't just sucking it down onto it and grabbing hold of it the way that it sometimes will in certain projects. So securing down my stencil gently, I need to secure it sufficiently for me to be able to get the transfer tape off, but I didn't want to press it down so hard that I wasn't going to be able to get the stencil off, so I was just walking the line there. So once I have that on there, I did come in with my little sponge, my makeup sponges. You guys know I love to use these for stenciling because I can cut them down to the size that I want, and they go a long way. So, and it's easy cleanup. Let's face it. So I did come in first with the black chalk paint, which is what I had used as my base color, and I'm doing this to avoid any issues with bleeding when I come in with the final colors. So now I'm coming in with my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint because I'm completely out of my other kind. And then I decided, so I've got my red also, but then I had decided on the inspiration picture, the little I don't know what those little things are at the bottom, but I decided to paint them green instead of red. So I've got my Fern in Waverly chalk paint. The red is my Imperial from Folk Art. And I'm just going in with my little makeup sponges and stenciling those all on. And as I was doing this, I was trying to decide whether or not I should wait until this was all dry to pull up my stencil. And I was afraid to let it just dry because I didn't know if it would I didn't know if I was going to have trouble getting it off. I will tell you that once I started taking it off, I did wish that I had let it dry. I didn't have any trouble getting it off, but because I was working with foam core board, it had saturated the paper a little bit. And so I did end up pulling up some of the surface of my project in some places, not a lot, but enough that I was like, oh, I should have just let it dry completely before trying to take it off, because I think it probably would have worked out better. So now normally I would have wanted to use wood for this. I just didn't have the size and type of wood that I needed to do this. That's why I used the foam core board. So foam core board will absolutely work for this. I just recommend that you do let it dry before you remove your stencil. Hopefully this is making sense and you're following what I'm saying. But you could also, if you don't have a vinyl cutter, you could use any kind of stencil. You could use a transfer, and you know, some of that might actually work better in this instance, especially if you're using the foam core board, because then you don't have to worry about whether you're going to be able to get it up or not. So a transfer might actually be best. So here it is after I touched it all up. I'm going to set it aside, let it dry the rest of the way, and now I'm going to make my bow for the wreath, and going to be doing a layered bow. So I was having some issues on this particular day with my bows, guys, but I'm just trying to get all of my little bow loops the same width, if you will. And then I went ahead and I tied this part off with an extra piece of the buffalo check ribbon. And I was trying to decide how I wanted to do the other part of the bow, the one that's going to be made with the burlap, and how I was going to attach them. So I was kind of figuring this part out as I went. But I just rolled this over itself, so kind of back and forth to get it to the shape that I wanted it. And then I cut that off. Now I'm going to cut another piece of the, see, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do this. And ultimately I decided I was going to cut off another piece of the burlap ribbon, and I tied it through the middle there. So I've just got one of my little clamps holding my ribbon for me while I get my tails going. And I made it nice and long so that I would have nice long tails, just like the inspiration picture. I threaded it through the middle, and I'm just going to tie it in a knot once I have the ends the same length. So tying that in a knot, and then I am actually going to untie the knot that I did on the buffalo check ribbon and thread that through this one as well, so that I can have the bows together. So here I am just carefully untying that one and holding onto my ribbon. I'm threading the end of that through, and then I will tie it again with the one bow on top of the other. So hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. I'm just fluffing up my ribbon, and then I'm going to take the part that I knotted and I'm going to tuck that through my wreath and use that to tie the ribbon to the form. So here I am tucking it in through. And then I'm going to tie it off in the back. And there we go. Just adjusting it, fluffing it up, making it pretty. And then just kind of, oh, they're dovetailing my ends again. I'm always dovetailing everything. And then I will curl that up and just form the bow the way that I want it to live. That's the great thing about the wired ribbon, you guys. It's just so nice to work with. You can really just shape it the way that you want it to look. So now, same thing that we did before with our little Tom Turkey with the sign. I'm going to glue down, this time I'm using white chenille stems, to the back of the sign that we made before. Now that it's all dry, I'm going to let that cool with the hot glue, and then I'll be able to bend that up. Oh, and ARTEZA sent me these awesome mica powders, and they are cosmetic grade, and they are shimmery and so pretty, and I'm excited to try and use them. So I went ahead and just, pulled some of them out. I figured I'd put a little bit on my little berries. I'm showing you this little super cute spoon that they sent with the powder. I thought this was so neat, and of course I've got to take it out and show you the little spoon, and it's taking me forever and a day to do that. But you can add these powders to paint and make them shimmery. You can add them to bath bombs if you want to make bath bombs. I'm really excited to try and figure out what else I can do with these, because I just think that they're so pretty and shimmery, and yeah. So more to come with this, I can guarantee you. But just adding a little bit to my little berries to give a teeny bit of shimmer. I don't know if you can tell very well on the camera, but it just gave it a little bit of a glisten. It was really pretty. So now I am bending up my chenille stems, and I'm going to fasten the wreath. And I do apologize. It is late. It is 11 o'clock at night, and Rich is keeping me company and being supportive as he always is, and he has fallen asleep on the couch next to me. And so if you hear some little bit of snoring, he's gonna kill me for pointing it out, but I know that if I don't mention it, somebody's gonna be like, is somebody snoring in the background? So yeah, he's a sweetheart, and like I said, very supportive, but the poor guy is exhausted, so forgive me if you're hearing a little bit of background noise there. But here we go with the wreath, and now that we've got the sign secured to it, and she is good to go. Let me know what you think in the comments. And here we go with our final reveal.
Okay, everybody, so that's it for today's projects. I hope that you enjoyed them. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Really appreciate your support. Thank you again for watching. Until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Take good care. Bye.